My hands won't stop shaking as I type this. Type. Delete. Type again. Delete again. Breathe. Try again. How do you explain the unexplainable? How do you ask for help when you're drowning in lies of your own making? I'm sitting in our perfect kitchen in Highland Park, the one with the marble countertops Ethan insisted on, and all I can think about is how everything is about to come crashing down. Our son Milo is playing in the next room, his laughter echoing through our too big house. Each giggle feels like another nail in my coffin. He looks nothing like Ethan. Nothing. For 4 years, I've pretended not to notice. 4 years of holding my breath when strangers say things like, "He must take after his mother's side," or, "What beautiful dark hair. Where does that come from?" 4 years of watching my husband's family exchange glances when they think I'm not looking. The truth is eating me alive, but the lie might destroy us all. I need someone to understand. I need someone to tell me what to do. So I'm writing this, hoping maybe if I put it all down, some answer will appear. Some way out of this nightmare I've created. I know what you're thinking already. I'm a cheater, a liar, the worst kind of woman. And you're right. But please, just hear me out. Not because I deserve it, but because I'm terrified of what happens next. I met Ethan when I was 20. I'd just been disowned by my family for leaving our strict religious community in Fort Worth. No money, no support, nowhere to go. I was crashing on a friend's couch, working at a coffee shop in Uptown, trying to figure out how to exist in a world I'd been taught to fear. Ethan was 32, successful, established. He came into the coffee shop every morning at exactly 7:15, ordered a large dark roast, no room, and left a $5 tip. For weeks, that was our only interaction. Then one morning he lingered. "You look sad," he said simply. Not a pickup line, just an observation. "I'm fine," I lied, blinking back tears because my family had just refused to take my calls again. "No one who's fine looks that lost," he said. "Want to talk about it?" I should have been more careful, should have seen the warning signs, but I was so desperately alone, and he was so steady, so sure. He listened to my whole story over coffee that stretched into lunch. By dinner, I felt like I'd known him forever. "You need stability," he said as he walked me home. "Someone to take care of you." It sounded like salvation. We were married 8 months later. Looking back, I see how fast it all was, how I never really got to know him before I said yes. But at the time, it felt like rescue. He had this beautiful house, this perfect life, and he wanted to share it with me. Who was I to question that? The first year was everything I thought marriage should be. Ethan was attentive, generous, protective. He insisted I quit the coffee shop. "My wife doesn't need to work," he said. And it sounded like love, not control. He added me to his accounts, bought me a new car, introduced me to his world of charity galas and country clubs. I got pregnant with our daughter Sophia right away. Ethan was thrilled, doting on me throughout the pregnancy, setting up the perfect nursery, reading every parenting book. When she was born, he cried, holding her tiny fingers and promising to give her the world. For 3 years, I thought I was living a fairy tale. Yes, Ethan had particular ways he liked things done. Yes, he could be moody when work was stressful. But didn't all marriages have their adjustments? Then something shifted. Or maybe I just started noticing what had always been there. It started with small criticisms. The way I loaded the dishwasher, how I folded his shirts, why I'd bought the wrong brand of coffee creamer. At first, he'd mention these things casually, almost jokingly, but gradually the jokes got sharper. "How hard is it to remember that I like my shirts folded in thirds, not halves?" he'd say, refolding his entire drawer while I watched. "I swear, Natalie, sometimes I think you do these things on purpose." I'd apologize, promise to do better, but there was always something else. The house wasn't clean enough. Dinner was too salty. I'd forgotten to pick up his dry cleaning. Each failure was met with escalating frustration. The first time he really yelled at me, Sophia was 18 months old. I'd accidentally shrunk his favorite sweater in the wash. When he found it, his face went red, veins bulging in his neck. "Are you completely incompetent?" he screamed, holding the shrunken sweater like evidence of a crime. "This was a $300 sweater. $300, but you wouldn't understand the value of money since you've never earned any, have you?" I stood there, frozen, while he raged. Sophia started crying from her high chair, and when I moved to comfort her, he grabbed my arm. "Don't you walk away when I'm talking to you," he said, his fingers digging into my skin. "You ruined my sweater. The least you can do is listen to why that's unacceptable." For 20 minutes, he lectured me about responsibility, about attention to detail, about how lucky I was that he put up with my carelessness. By the time he was done, I was sobbing, apologizing over and over, promising to buy him a new sweater. "With what money?" he'd sneered. "You don't have any money. You have my money, remember that." That night, lying in bed next to him while he slept peacefully, I realized I was afraid of my husband. Not that he'd hit me. Ethan was too smart for that, too concerned with appearances, but afraid of his voice, his moods, his impossible standards that I could never quite meet. The fear changed me, made me smaller, quieter, careful. I became obsessed with perfection, terrified of making mistakes. But the more I tried, the more I seemed to fail. And each failure was met with louder anger, longer lectures, and colder silence. By the time Sophia turned 3, I was a ghost in my own home. Ethan controlled everything. The money, the schedule, the rules. I hadn't seen my family in 4 years. My old friends had drifted away. I had no one but him, exactly how he wanted it. "You'd be nothing without me," he'd remind me during arguments. "Living on the streets, probably. You should be grateful I saved you." And the sick part was, I believed him. I was grateful. Even as I feared him, I convinced myself this was love. This was what I deserved for being too stupid to load a dishwasher correctly. Then I met someone who made me remember I was human. His name was Diego, and he worked at the gym in Preston Hollow, where Ethan had bought me a membership. "You're getting soft," he'd said, poking at my stomach. "Can't have my wife letting herself go." Diego was one of the trainers, always smiling, always encouraging. After months of being told everything I did was wrong, having someone tell me I was doing great felt like water in the desert. "You're stronger than you think," he said one day as I struggled through squats. Sometimes we just need someone to remind us. I started booking more sessions. Ethan approved. He wanted me fit, after all. What he didn't know was that Diego and I would talk afterward. Just conversations at first, about music, movies, life, normal things that I'd forgotten existed in my world of constant criticism. One day, after a particularly bad morning where Ethan had screamed at me for buying the wrong kind of apples, I broke down crying in the parking lot. Diego found me there. "Hey, what's wrong?" he asked, genuine concern in his voice. "Nothing, I'm fine," I said automatically. "No one who's fine cries like that in their car," he said gently. And suddenly, I was telling him everything. About Ethan's anger, his control, my fear. Diego listened without judgment, occasionally reaching over to squeeze my hand. "That's not okay," he said when I finished. "You know that's not normal, right? That's not how love is supposed to feel." I knew he was right. But knowing and doing something about it were different things. Where would I go? How would I support myself and Sophia? Ethan had made sure I was completely dependent on him. The affair started gradually. Lingering looks, accidental touches. Then one day, after another morning of Ethan's rage, I kissed Diego in the supply closet at the gym. It was desperate and wrong. And the first time I'd felt alive in years. "We shouldn't," he said, even as he kissed me back. "I know," I whispered. "But I need this. I need to feel human again." For 3 months, Diego was my escape. The hours at the gym were the only time I could breathe. With him, I wasn't the incompetent wife who couldn't do anything right. I was desired, valued, seen. But it didn't stop with Diego. Once I'd crossed that line, it became easier to cross again. The bartender at the cafe where I sometimes ate alone. A dad from Sophia's playgroup, my hairdresser's assistant. Men who smiled at me, complimented me, made me feel like more than Ethan's disappointing wife. I knew it was self-destructive. Knew I was risking everything. But the fear of being caught was still less than the daily fear of disappointing Ethan. At least when I was with someone else, I could pretend I had value. The pregnancy was a shock. Ethan and I barely touched anymore. He was usually too disgusted with whatever I'd done wrong that day. But we'd had sex once in the possible window. A perfunctory encounter after a charity event where he'd had too much wine. I knew immediately there was a chance it wasn't his. More than a chance. I'd been with 3 other men that month, but I pushed the doubt down, told myself the timing worked out, that of course the baby was Ethan's. When Milo was born, the doubt became certainty. Ethan held our son, studying his face with a frown. "He's so dark," he said, tracing Milo's olive skin, his black hair. "Must be from your side." "Must be," I agreed, my heart hammering. You know genetics are weird. But genetics weren't that weird. Not when both Ethan and I had blonde hair, fair skin, blue eyes. Not when both our families were Scandinavian stock going back generations. Milo looked like neither of us. Not like Sophia, not like Ethan, not like me. For 2 years, I held my breath, waiting for Ethan to figure it out. But he was too busy with work. Too sure of his control to imagine I'd ever betray him. When people commented on Milo's appearance, I'd laugh it off. "Throwback genes," I'd say. "You never know what you'll get." But now Milo is 4, and the differences are impossible to ignore. He's beautiful. Dark eyes, olive skin, black curls. Nothing like his supposed father. Nothing like his sister. A constant reminder of my betrayal walking around our house. Ethan's family has started asking questions. His mother pulled me aside at Thanksgiving. "Milo certainly is unique looking," she said, her eyes hard. "Where exactly does that complexion come from?" "Recessive genes?" I said weakly. "You know how it is." "Do I?" she asked, then walked away. Last week, Ethan's brother made a joke about the milkman that fell flat. Ethan laughed, but I saw something shift in his eyes. A question forming that he wasn't ready to ask yet. I know what's coming. The doubt is there now, growing every day. Soon he'll demand a test, and then everything will explode. He'll know I cheated multiple times. He'll know I tried to pass another man's son off as his. What terrifies me most isn't losing the house or the money. It's not even losing my children, though that thought makes me sick. It's Ethan's rage when he discovers how thoroughly I've betrayed him. The man who screams about wrong apples or shrunk sweaters, what will he do when he learns about this? I've started sleeping with my door locked. Started keeping my keys by my bed. Started planning escape routes in my head. Because I know Ethan and I know his pride is everything. This betrayal will destroy him, and he'll want to destroy me in return. Some people reading this will say I deserve whatever comes. That I made my bed, and now I have to lie in it. And maybe they're right. I betrayed my vows, lied for years, created an innocent child who'll suffer for my choices. But I need you to understand, I was drowning. Ethan had stripped away everything that made me myself. The affairs weren't about sex or even love. They were about survival, about proving I existed beyond being Ethan's failure of a wife. I know that doesn't excuse it. Nothing excuses what I've done. But maybe it explains it. Yesterday, I overheard Ethan on the phone with someone. "I need a DNA test," he said quietly. "Discreet. Can you arrange that?" So it's happening. The countdown has begun. I've started researching women's shelters, though I don't know if they'll take someone like me. I'm not a traditional victim. I'm a cheater who got caught. But I'm still afraid, still trapped, still desperate. I've thought about taking the kids and running, but where would we go? With what money? Ethan knows everyone in Dallas. He has connections everywhere. And legally, I have no grounds to take his children, especially once he proves Milo isn't his. Sometimes I lie awake at night, listening to Ethan breathe, and wonder if I should just tell him. Confess everything before he finds out on his own. Maybe if I control the narrative, I can minimize the damage. But then I remember his face when I shrunk that sweater, the veins in his neck, the way his voice shook the windows. And I know there's no minimizing this. There's no soft landing when you fall from this height. Milo asked me yesterday why Daddy never plays with him the way he plays with Sophia. What could I say? That Daddy suspects you're not his? That every time he looks at you, he sees evidence of my betrayal? Daddy loves you, I lied. He's just very busy with work. But Milo's smart. He knows something's different. Knows he doesn't fit in this family the way Sophia does. And soon he'll know why. I've destroyed so many lives. Ethan's, though he doesn't know it yet. Milo's, who never asked to be born into this mess. Sophia's, who will lose her family when this explodes. Even the men I slept with, who had no idea they might have fathered a child. And my own life, of course. Though that was destroyed long ago, the day I mistook control for love and married a man who would slowly erase me. I keep trying to find the villain in this story, and I know it's me. I'm the cheater, the liar, the woman who betrayed her husband and tried to pass off another man's child as his. In any telling, I'm the bad guy. But I also know I'm the woman who was 20 and alone, who thought being saved meant being owned, who tried so hard to be perfect that she broke into pieces, who sought comfort in the arms of strangers because her husband's arms felt like a prison. Does trauma excuse betrayal? Does fear justify lies? I don't know. I just know I'm running out of time, and I don't know what to do. Part of me hopes when Ethan finds out, it'll finally be over. No more pretending. No more fear. No more lies. Just the truth, ugly as it is, finally in the light. But another part knows that when the truth comes out, the real nightmare begins. Ethan with his money and connections. Ethan with his rage and pride. Ethan with proof that I'm exactly the failure he always said I was. I've started saying goodbye to things. The kitchen where I learned to cook his specific meals. The bedroom where I learned to make myself small. The nursery where I rocked Milo, knowing he might not belong here. I say goodbye to Sophia every morning, memorizing her face, wondering if Ethan will let me see her after. I hold Milo extra tight, whispering apologies he doesn't understand yet. And I say goodbye to the woman I was before all this, the 20-year-old who just wanted to be loved, who thought marriage meant safety, who didn't know that sometimes the person who saves you is the one you need saving from. That woman is gone now, replaced by someone I don't recognize, a liar, a cheater, a survivor, a fool, all of these things and none of them depending on who's telling the story. The DNA test results will come soon, days, maybe weeks. And then Ethan will know what I've always known, that Milo isn't his, that I betrayed him in the worst possible way, that everything he believed about our marriage was a lie. I don't know what happens after that. I can't see past the explosion to whatever comes next. All I know is that I'm afraid. More afraid than I've ever been, which says something given that I've spent 8 years being afraid. People will judge me for writing this, for trying to explain the unexplainable, justify the unjustifiable. They'll say I'm making excuses, playing victim when I'm clearly the perpetrator. And they're probably right, but I needed someone to know the whole story, not the version Ethan will tell, where I'm just a worthless whore who deceived him, not the version I tell myself, where I'm just a victim who made desperate choices, but something closer to the truth, messy and complicated as it is. I loved my husband once, before I learned to fear him. I love my children always, even though I've failed them. I loved the men who made me feel human, even though I used them. And somewhere buried deep, I might still love myself, even though I've become someone unlovable. And that's the real tragedy in all of this. Not just the betrayal or the lies or the coming storm, but that two broken people found each other and, instead of healing, broke each other more. That a marriage meant to be salvation became destruction. That a child meant to be loved became evidence of betrayal. I don't know how to end this story because it's not over yet. The test results haven't come. Ethan hasn't confronted me. The bomb hasn't exploded. But the timer is ticking, and we're all just waiting for the blast. Maybe I'll update this when it happens. Maybe I'll be too busy running or fighting or trying to survive whatever comes next. Maybe Ethan will find this and know I knew all along, that I've been preparing for the end while pretending everything was fine. Or maybe, and this is the thought that terrifies me most, nothing will change. Maybe Ethan will get the results, confirm his suspicions, and decide to stay anyway. Not out of love or forgiveness, but because leaving would mean admitting failure, would mean people knowing his wife cheated, that he's raising another man's son. Maybe he'll use it as one more weapon in his arsenal. One more way to remind me how worthless I am, how lucky I am he keeps me despite everything. Maybe the fear I live with now will be nothing compared to the fear of Ethan knowing my secret and choosing to make me pay for it forever. That's the thing about abusers. They don't need to hit you to hurt you. Sometimes the threat is enough. The silence, the waiting, the knowledge that they could destroy you at any moment, and might. But I'm tired of living in fear. Tired of lies. Tired of being someone I don't recognize. So whatever comes next, at least it'll be honest. At least the truth will be out there, ugly as it is. Judge me if you want. Call me names. Say I deserve whatever happens. And you're probably right. But remember that sometimes the villain in the story is just someone who made terrible choices while drowning. Someone who betrayed others because she'd already betrayed herself. Someone who lied so much she forgot what truth felt like. That's me. The cheater, the liar, the woman who destroyed her family trying to save herself. And now all I can do is wait for the reckoning I know is coming.